And he began again to teach by the seaside, and there was gathered to him a great multitude, so that he entered into a ship and sat in the sea, and the whole multitude was by the sea on the land. And he taught them many things by parables, and said to them in his doctrine, Hearken, behold, there went out a sower to sow. And it came to pass, as he sowed, some fell by the wayside, and the fowls of the air came and devoured it up. And some fell on stony ground, where it had not much earth, and immediately it sprang up, because it had no depth. But when the sun was up, it was scorched, and because it had no root, it withered away. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up, and choked it, and it yielded no fruit. And the other fell on good ground, and did yield fruit that sprang up and increased, and brought forth some 30, and some 60, and some 100. And he said to them, He that has ears to hear, let him hear. And when he was alone, they that were about him with the 12 asked of him the parable. And he said to them, To you it is given to know the mystery of the kingdom of God, but to them that are without, all these things are done in parables, that seeing they may see, and not perceive, and hearing they may hear, and not understand, lest at any time they should be converted, and their sins should be forgiven of them. And he said to them, Do you not know this parable? And how then will you know all parables? The sower sows the word, and these are they by the wayside, where the word is sown. But when they have heard, Satan comes immediately, and takes away the word that was sown in their hearts. And these are they likewise that are sown on stony ground, who, when they have heard the word, immediately receive it with gladness, and have no root in themselves, and so endure but for a time. Afterward, when affliction or persecution arises for the word's sake, immediately they are offended. And these are they that are sown among thorns, such as hear the word, and the cares of this world, and the deceitfulness of riches, and the lusts of other things entering in, choke the word, and it becomes unfruitful. And these are they that are sown on good ground, such as hear the word, and receive it, and bring forth fruit, some 30-fold, some 60, and some 100. And he said to them, Is a candle brought to be put under a bushel, or under a bed, and not to set on a candlestick? For there is nothing hid that will not be manifested, neither was anything kept secret, but that it should come abroad. If any man have ears to hear, let him hear. And he said to them, Take heed what you hear. With what measure you mete, it will be measured to you. And to you that hear will more be given. For he that has, to him will be given, and he that has not, from him will be taken even that what he has. And he said, So is the kingdom of God, as if a man should cast seed into the ground, and should sleep, and rise night and day, and the seed should spring and grow up, and he knows not how. For the earth brings forth fruit of herself, first to the blade, then the ear, after that the full corn in the ear. But when the fruit is brought forth, immediately he puts in the sickle, because the harvest is come. And he said, Where will we liken the kingdom of God? Or with what comparison will we compare it? It is like a grain of mustard seed, that, when it is sown in the earth, is less than all the seeds that be in the earth. But when it is sown, it grows up, and becomes greater than all herbs, and shoots out great branches, so that the fowls of the air may lodge under the shadow of it. And with many such parables he spoke the word to them, as they were able to hear it. But without a parable he spoke not to them, and when they were alone, he expounded all things to the disciples. And the same day, when the even was come, he said to them, "Let us pass over to the other side." And when they had sent away the multitude, they took him even as he was in the ship. And there were also with him other little ships. And there arose a great storm of wind, and the waves beat into the ship, so that it was now full. And he was in the hinder part of the ship, asleep on a pillow. And they awoke him, and said to him, "Master, do you not care that we perish?" And he arose, and rebuked the wind, and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. And he said to them, "Why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith?" And they feared exceedingly, and said one to another, "What manner of man is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him?" And they came over to the other side of the sea, into the country of the Gadarenes. And when he was come out of the ship, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit, who had his dwelling among the tombs, and no man could bind him, no, not with chains, because that he had been often bound with fetters and chains, and the chains had been plucked asunder by him, and the fetters broken in pieces. Neither could any man tame him. And always, night and day, he was in the mountains, and in the tombs, crying and cutting himself with stones. But when he saw Jesus afar off, he ran and worshipped him, and cried with a loud voice, and said, "What have I to do with you, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I adjure you by God, that you torment me not." For he said to him, "Come out of the man, you unclean spirit." And he asked him, "What is your name?" And he answered, saying, "My name is Legion, for we are many." And he besought him much that he would not send them away out of the country. Now there was near to the mountains a great herd of swine feeding. And all the devils besought him, saying, "Let us into the swine, that we may enter into them." And forthwith Jesus gave them leave. And the unclean spirits went out, and entered into the swine. And the herd ran violently down a steep place into the sea. They were about 2,000, and were choked in the sea. And they that fed the swine fled, and told it in the city and in the country. And they went out to see what it was that was done. And they came to Jesus, and saw him that was possessed with the devil, and had the legion, sitting and clothed, and in his right mind. And they were afraid. And they that saw it told them how it befell to him that was possessed with the devil, and also concerning the swine. And they began to pray him to depart out of their coasts. And when he was come into the ship, he that had been possessed with the devil prayed him that he might be with him. Howbeit Jesus suffered him not, but said to him, "Go home to your friends, and tell them how great things the Lord has done for you, and has had compassion on you." And he departed and began to publish it in Decapolis, how great things Jesus had done for him, and all men did marvel. And when Jesus was passed over again by ship to the other side, much people gathered to him, and he was near to the sea. And behold, there came one of the rulers of the synagogue, Jairus by name, and when he saw him, he fell at his feet, and besought him greatly, saying, "My little daughter lies at the point of death. I pray you, come and lay your hands on her, that she may be healed, and she will live." And Jesus went with him, and much people followed him, and thronged him. And a certain woman, that had an issue of blood 12 years, and had suffered many things of many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and was nothing bettered, but rather grew worse. And when she had heard of Jesus, came in the press behind, and touched his garment. For she said, "If I may touch but his clothes, I will be whole." And straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of that plague. And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned him about in the press, and said, "Who touched my clothes?" And his disciples said to him, "You see the multitude thronging you, and you say, 'Who touched me?'" And he looked round about to see her that had done this thing. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what was done in her, came and fell down before him, and told him all the truth. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you whole. Go in peace, and be whole of your plague." While he yet spoke, there came from the ruler of the synagogue's house certain that said, "Your daughter is dead. Why do you trouble the master any further?" As soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he said to the ruler of the synagogue, "Be not afraid, only believe." And he suffered no man to follow him, save Peter and James and John, the brother of James. And he came to the house of the ruler of the synagogue, and saw the tumult, and them that wept and wailed greatly. And when he was come in, he said to them, "Why do you make this ado and weep? The damsel is not dead, but sleeps." And they laughed him to scorn. But when he had put them all out, he took the father and the mother of the damsel, and them that were with him, and entered in where the damsel was lying. And he took the damsel by the hand, and said to her, "Talitha cumi," that is, being interpreted, "Damsel, I say to you, arise." And straightway the damsel arose, and walked, for she was of the age of 12 years, and they were astonished with great astonishment. And he charged them straitly that no man should know it, and commanded that something should be given her to eat.